Hello and welcome to our market report for the first week of November. We're well in the heart of the Spring Racing Carnival. Cup Day was yesterday and Oaks Day tomorrow, so it gives me great pleasure. I'd like to welcome Russell Bartlett. Russ, welcome.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
You've been part of running our commercial industrial department for 25 years, if I'm correct. Certainly as far as the local area goes, there's probably no one that, and I know you won't say this, but no one would probably know the local C&I area probably as well, or as specialised as yourself. So I thought today we would get you in and just probably ask what's happening out there for commercial, industrial letting and sales.
Yeah, it's kind of commercial industrial is a bit of a sleeper out this way, because most people think of the outer eastern suburbs, Mooroolbark, Ulladulla, Croydon, as a residential family suburb.
Yep.
But we have a substantial commercial industrial arena. Obviously people don't really think about shops. Shops are there, people use them, but people invest in shops the same way they invest in residential. So yeah, it's quite active. The market itself at the moment is probably a little bit of a reflection of the economy. It's a little bit patchy.
Yep.
From a leasing perspective, retail leasing is probably still reasonably strong. Commercial leasing, when we say commercial, we usually refer to office space. That's commercial leasing.
Right.
Commercial's probably a little bit soft at the moment. Probably got a little bit too much office space for the demand that's out there.
And is that largely just a bit of uncertainty in the economy? Is that where you think that's coming from?
It's a confidence. It's a confidence thing.
Yep.
People tend to be sort of playing a wait and see game.
Okay.
To see what the government's going to do.
Yep.
Before they take any big steps. So most people sort of in a holding pattern at the moment. Industrials are probably down a little bit. I don't want to say that, but it's the truth.
Yep.
Leasing is a little bit slow.
Yep.
Once again, it's a confidence thing. The market's very price point driven. We can lease the cheaper and older style factories, particularly because they're more affordable.
Yep.
So people are either taking the step out of the home garage, prepared to take the punt, or actually downsizing a little bit.
Yep.
So the larger properties and the more expensive properties tend to languish a little bit if owners don't have an open mind to sort of negotiate a little bit there.
Sure. Yep.
Our sales market is actually going quite well if we could get more stock.
Right.
There's still investors out there, particularly for retail.
Okay.
Retail is still seen as a fairly secure vehicle.
Yep.
A lot of self-funded superannuation funds are looking at retail.
Yep.
And also they're also an owner-occupier market. Super funds coming into industrial as well. So businesses buying their own building with their super fund to set up rather than pay somebody rent.
Sure.
But stock is a little bit tight.
Right.
But prices are holding there.
Sure.
So it's a little bit of a topsy-turvy market at the moment. People often see your market, the residential market, doing quite well, it's quite strong. So they assume that every real estate market's quite strong. But C&I, commercial, industrial and residential, don't always run a parallel course.
Sure.
They're often running a bit different.
A bit different skilter. Yeah.
It's a different market.
Yep.
Different investors too.
Yep.
Generally, you don't get a lot of crossover from residential investors looking at commercial, industrial, or retail.
Yep.
They're
and why do you think that is? Is that maybe that a lot of, call it mums and dads investors, maybe aren't familiar or perhaps confident with that, or?
I think it is a confidence thing.
Yep.
It's quite an interesting market because, we've got very few people, landlord. We've only really got probably one or two mutual clients that have got residential and commercial. And that's using the word mum and dad, so that's not to be disrespectful. But
sure. Yep.
Generally, it is a confidence thing, but the guys who have both are business people.
Right.
They understand both.
Yes.
A lot of people like commercial industrial because tenants pay for everything. They pay for the rates, they pay for the insurance, they pay body corporate fees, and they even pay for some of the maintenance on a property, where residential, the landlords do the whole thing.
Sure.
So they think, well, I'll buy a shop because I don't have to pay anything.
No. Yeah.
Returns your direct return on commercial industrial is usually, or retail is usually higher than residential. I think traditionally residential is probably a direct return of about 3.5, 3.7%.
Yep.
In our area, you can probably pick up a retail investment for around about 6%.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for basically the value for a commercial property to go up basically is dependent on largely on what rent you're getting. Is that right?
In broad terms,
To a
yes.
degree?
To a
Yeah.
degree. But that's generally what people look at.
Sure.
That's right.
Okay.
And once again, it comes back to demand and confidence.
Yep.
If there's heat in the market, well, the rents obviously will remain the same, but demand will drive the price up, so therefore your return is lower. So it might come from 6%, you'll be buying it on a 5% return.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And lease term, what sort of rough leases would you be doing?
That's a good question, because lease terms have shortened. Traditionally, it used to be everyone would sign a lease for 5 years.
Right. Yep.
With the economy since the global financial crisis, I almost hate to say the GFC,
Yep.
but that did have an impact. So people have stepped back and they say, well, I don't want to sign for 5,
Yep.
I need some flexibility. And if you can get a 3-year term out of someone as an initial term, you're doing pretty well.
Right.
A lot of people will come and say, look, I'm looking at that factory, I want to take a lease initially for a year just to see how I go.
Yeah. Right.
And,
Okay.
and I have to say to owners, keep an open mind.
Yes, and I guess if an owner's got a property that may have been sitting vacant there for 3, 4, 5 months, whatever it may be, well, I guess they've got to look at it and think, well, okay, well, maybe we look at this tenant and get them in there on a 12-month lease, and better to have rent coming in than no.
True, and generally people will stay there for more than their initial 12 months.
Sure, yep.
You know, it's pretty rare that someone goes in for 12 and then turns over and leaves after 12 months.
Yes, beautiful.
We had people who went in 3 or 4 years ago on a 1-year term,
Yep.
and have now re-entered into 2-year terms because they've established, they've got their confidence, and
they're happy to move forward. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Russ. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So if anyone's looking at commercial, whether it's leasing or perhaps buying a property, and maybe it's something you haven't dabbled in before, or you want to know a little bit more about it, give Russell a call. I'd be happy to meet with you. 26 years experience. I think we're very lucky to have Russ in our local area. He knows the market so well for the commercial and industrial market. So Russ can be contacted on 9726 8888. Thanks, Russ.
Thanks, Greg.
If you want to just hang around for a little bit moment, I'll just give a little bit of an update on the rest of the market. Just in front of me, our residential rental list. I was just having a little bit of a flick through that before we got underway today, and talking to Tracy that runs our department. Interesting, 2 months ago when we featured Tracy in our report, demand was certainly at a very high level, but over the last 3-4 weeks it's really slowed up, which is interesting. The vacancy rate has climbed a little bit, and even our lettings over the last month have just dropped back. So, and certainly you have a look for any tenants that are out there, they would have noticed, Russell, that there is a lot more choice at the moment. So I think for any landlords out there, you just maybe, like you're saying with your properties, just give a little bit of thought as to what rent maybe you're asking. Obviously, to attract the right tenant, sometimes you're better to have it a little bit more attractive, and at least know you've got your property let to a good tenant.
It's interesting you say that. This is one of the main things that people do see between commercial, industrial too, and residential, is that to attract the tenant into a residential rental, you really only need to adjust the rent maybe $10 a week. In a commercial or a retail that's been empty for a while, you have to adjust the rent $100 a week.
Right, okay.
To attract.
Yes.
So that's another difference that can be in that.
Sure.
I think that Jeff, when I first started here, one of the things that Jeff always said about residential investment is against commercial investment is that people have always got to live somewhere.
Yes,
And I think that is true too.
True, very.
When things get a bit tight in the economy, people still have to live somewhere, but they don't have to run a shop or a factory.
Yeah, very true. No, very good, and I appreciate the comment, and that's probably why I think maybe a lot more people always, or perhaps steer or feel more comfortable in residential,
exactly.
Maybe because that's their initial gut feel. And finally, just to wrap up, the sales market, that probably is still running very well. If you've been watching these on a monthly basis, the market probably all of this year has gradually just really gone from strength to strength. Certainly that's still happening, and I think it will continue right through to the end of this year. So that's our market report. Russ, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Appreciate your input. As I said, if you've got any questions for commercial industrial, please give Russell a call. And for any of our sales team, rental team, we're open 7 days a week. We'd certainly love to help. So my name's Greg Earney on behalf of the Methven Group. Thanks for watching, and look forward to catching up with you in December. Thanks, Russ.
Thanks, Greg.